I'd like to set the stage for our service this morning. The great apostle Paul wrote, "When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." When I was a child. When I was a child, I heard a story about a little boy named David who killed a giant with his slingshot. It was a story filled with high adventure, daring, exciting. In the end, David survived, and he cut off the giant's head with the giant's own sword. When I was a child, 3 boys were thrown into a fiery furnace by an evil king. They didn't wear orange jumpsuits. They didn't have any cage. Only a fiery furnace. It was a time of high adventure, daring, exciting. They survived the flames because one who was as the Ancient of Days, even the Son of God. Why, it was high adventure, daring, and exciting. When I was a child, a poster was on the schoolroom wall. A boy named Daniel, a young man actually, was thrown into a lion's den. His story was one of high adventure, daring, and exciting. And Daniel survived. When I was a child, I remember stories of a place in Rome called the Roman Colosseum. I saw etchings of St. George doing battle against the dragon. Images fill my mind of stained glass saints or of statues carved out of marble. There were images everywhere that told stories of high adventure, daring, and exciting. But then time passed, and then I became a man. I remember as a young man seeing old black and white photographs of skinny people, men and women who were almost completely naked, starving, living or trying to live in concentration camps. I heard stories about those death camps, about the furnaces, about the gas chambers. Oh, of course, I reasoned long ago, and that was far away. But through my exposure to those images, the idea of adventure died. This wasn't daring. This wasn't exciting. A sanitized description of what was transpiring back then was man's inhumanity to man. It's a sanitized description that covers up the reality of what martyrdom and persecution is all about. It's not high adventure. It's not daring. It's not exciting. It's bloody. It's messy. It's ugly. It's barbaric. And you know, time passed even further. And like you, I began to become immersed in the information age. And the internet showed images too, but not in black and white, in living color. And this world that became a smaller place because of that internet and because of that information age, it revealed again the true reality of martyrdom and Christian persecution. Bloody, messy, ugly, barbaric. I want to share with you 3 quotes and 1 thought. Quote number 1. Those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it. History, my friend, open your eyes. History is repeating itself. 2nd quote. Evil prevails when good men do nothing. The world is populated by hundreds of thousands, millions of good men who, even though they recognize that history is repeating itself, they're doing nothing. I want to share a thought. Know this: God's church is not helpless, and America is not powerless. Let me say that again. God's church is not helpless, and America is not powerless. And my final quote: was a poem that was written during an American crisis more than 100 years ago. There comes a time for every man and nation to decide for truth and goodness or evil and the other side. That time has come upon each of us, and that time has come upon our nation. We're going to challenge you through this special time together to make some choices that count, some decisions that make a line of demarcation in the sand, whereby you will not simply say no more, but you will do something to put an end of the horror and the terror that surrounds us. An old man gave the following testimony. His words: I lived in Germany during the Nazi Holocaust. I considered myself a Christian. I attended church since I was a small boy. We had heard the stories of what was happening to the Jews, but like most people today in this country, in America, we tried to distance ourselves from the reality of what was really taking place. What could anyone do to stop it? A railroad track ran behind our small church. We became disturbed when one Sunday we noticed cries coming from the train as it passed by. We grimly realized that the train was carrying Jews, people who were being martyred because of their faith. They were like cattle in those cars. We were disturbed by their cries. We decided that the only way to keep from being so disturbed by the cries was to simply sing a little louder. He closes by saying, I can still hear that train whistle in my sleep. I can still hear them crying out for help. God forgive all of us today who call ourselves Christians, yet do nothing to intervene. My friend, our world cannot wait while we sing our songs. Our world cannot wait while we battle one with another inside of the body of Christ, whether to sing contemporary or traditional hymns. The world cannot wait while we fuss and fight over who will sing and when they will sing and what they will sing. And my friend, the Martyrs cannot wait either. God forgive us as Americans and as Christians if we stick our heads in the sand to block out the screams of the afflicted, the persecuted, the voices of the martyrs. Again, I want to add, God's church is not helpless. America is not powerless. The weapons of our warfare as a church are not carnal. It is the government's responsibility to determine how many troops, how many airplanes, how many tanks. That's not our weaponry. But the weaponry that we have as a gift from Almighty God is powerful, powerful, powerful. Let me close with a story. It happened in California. It was exactly at 5:13 a.m. on the 18th of April in 1906. A car was standing somewhere between the main barn and the milking shed on the old Schaffner Ranch in California. That cow was minding her own business. Suddenly the earth shook. The skies trembled. And when it was all over, there was nothing showing of the cow above ground but a bit of her tail sticking up. It's a symbol, an image of the rapidity of change. Time marches on. That cow, my friend, was quiet enough, thinking gentle thoughts as cows are likely to think, completely unaware that there were huge forces outside of her built up and building up all around her, and within a minute it discharged all at once in a great movement that changed everything and swallowed that cow up. My friend, there were huge forces building up all around us, and I want you to know that God's church is not helpless. America is not powerless. That time for us to decide for truth and goodness, or for evil and the other side has come upon you. May you make choices today that count, decisions that draw a line in the sand, and may both America and God's church put our foot down by our churches and by our choices and simply say, enough is enough, no more.